therapists of Reddit, what was your "you must be kidding me" moment? Doctor I used to work with told me about a woman who tried to commit suicide, so they put her in a safe room. She then proceeded to try and overdose on water, which he told me is possible but really damn hard to do. A client was going to probate court and thought he had dress up by putting a non-slip sock on his collar as a tie. Trying to be supportive, I told him, "Nice tie," to which he replied, "It is not a tie, it is a sock, stupid." One client of mine bites and eats his fingernails. Gross, but not unheard of. Then I learn he stores his fingernails in a box in his room to save them for a snack later. A little grosser, but he is about 9, so I am hoping he will grow out of it. What finally made me want to vomit was learning that when anyone in his family clips their nails, fingers or toes, they give him the clippings to add to his box. So when he is eating nails from the box, they could belong to his mother, father, or siblings. Yes, I have addressed the parents about enabling this behavior, but it is still happening. Edit. Thank you all for your concerns for my client. I am aware that it seems like pica or some sort of nutrition deficiency, and for all I know it could be. I am a behavioral therapist and not qualified to professionally recommend medical treatments to the family. I do know his parents have taken him to several doctors for multiple different tests for disorders, so this could have been addressed and they just choose not to disclose the information to me. Crap, I am late. Mom and dad are both in counseling for sexual addiction. Dad is into bestiality. Stepmom is into anything that moves. Daughter 11 was raped repeatedly by her real mom's friends. Parents are constantly watching porn in front of daughter and she sees multiple people go into bedroom and leave quickly. Parents wonder why daughter is very hypersexually and got kicked out of school for groping every boy in her class. I used to work with children that have autism and Down syndrome, which means a lot of play therapy. I had my moment when one of my clients wanted to sit on my lap while we practiced reciting animal cards followed with their corresponding noise. Forgot what animal noise I made that made him laugh so much that he ended up peeing on me from the laughter. That night was also date night. Intake clinician here. What brings you in today? I am here for porn addiction. At this point, not the weirdest thing I have heard. Let us go with that. Okay, tell me about it. I watch it 3 times a week, for 15 minutes or so at a time. My girlfriend said I am an addict and forced me to come in. I see lots of very extreme cases, but this was so minor that it made me stop for a moment. I sent them to couples counseling. Just today I conducted a threat assessment on a first grader who told his teacher he wanted to stab himself with a knife and die. Upon further questioning, he revealed that he and dad watched The Walking Dead together, and last time on the show he saw 2 people stab themselves to death because they did not want to get eaten by the zombies. Why are you even watching that show with a 6-year-old? Had a client who we found out was storing his own shit under his bed. He would then eat his shit for a snack. Edit. So I guess I should have added why he did this. First issue, he thought he was an alien, so eating his shit had a few benefits in his mind. First benefit, we could not study his shit. Second benefit, he felt that alien shit had nutrients he could not get from our food. He would eat normal food, but we found out he felt Earth food was poison and alien shit fixed that. Third benefit, alien shit is worth a lot of money, so he did not want us to steal it. When we found out what he was doing, I got to inform him that we were taking away his shit. He kicked me. Not a therapist yet, but I am currently taking a counseling and therapies university course, and we occasionally hear some stories from our professors in lectures or tutorials. One sticks out in my mind because I did never seen an entire class shocked into silent horror before. A guest lecturer told us about a client he had who used a craft knife to cut open his own scrotum and took out what was inside because he wanted to look at it and play with it. One that sticks out in my mind was a mother that brought in her 5-year-old for therapy because she was into Disney princesses, which are clearly sexual, and since a 5-year-old is non-sexual, This must clearly mean she is being sexually abused by a close family member. I have also worked with countless couples who have come to counseling for adultery wherein adultery porn. One client even became suicidal because she caught her husband jerking off after not having sex with him for months. I know everyone has different values, but Simone, why all? This recently happened to me. I have a client who is a daily methadone doser. During our last session he complained of sleep issues. Delving into this new issue, he described his solution to me. He saves his spit in a jar to drink at night when he is unable to sleep, saves his spit in a jar to drink later. Worked one summer at a summer school for special needs children about 2 years ago when I was 14. I was just a teacher aide, so most of what I was doing was playing with the lower maintenance children and just running errands for the teachers. One morning, I was helping the kids put their stuff into their cubbies and one of the kids was just standing in front of his, staring at me with his lunch bag in his hands. This was one of the more violent kids who would act up at the slightest of breezes. He was about 11 or 12 and had severe autism. I asked him if he needed help putting his stuff away and he replied with only some mumbling. I asked him to speak clearly and he said, "I am going to hurt you." I was really confused and asked him to repeat what he said. He then screamed at the top of his lungs, "I am going to hoo you," and swung his lunchbox straight for my head. Luckily, I kinda expected this kind of thing to happen, so I was ready to duck, and he missed. I was not allowed to even touch any of the students because I was not trained to restrain them, so until the teachers got him under control all I could do was run around the classroom as he chased me, until the teachers got him under control. Once the teachers restrained him, he was under control within about 10 or 15 minutes. When the teacher asked him why he did what he did, he said that he was angry because his dad did not bring him to Denny's that morning. I was assaulted because a kid did not get to go to Denny's. I am a speech therapist, that counts, right? And I see this little kindergartner who also has massive behavior issues. We are working on language and pragmatics because he enjoys calling people stupid ducking bitches and little dirty whores and goddamn disgraces, most likely for attention. He will walk around the room calling me a stupid bitch, a smelly cunt, and repeating the word duck until he runs out of breath just to see if he can get a reaction from me. I would work on articulation with him because he does not actually say those words correctly, but I figured best to work on that later after I have got the swearing and name calling down to a minimum. I was working surveillance one night at a psych ward, keeping a close watch on a mentally ill patient. Right before my shift started, I was briefed that the patient had started eating one of the light bulbs and attacked a nurse. At around 5 a.m. he woke up and saw me eating there at the end of his bed. I said good morning and he didn't reply. About 15 minutes of silence went by before he stood up and stared out the window and said, "A person is most vulnerable while taking a shit." I didn't sit back down for the rest of my shift. I am a therapist and have a few of these stories, but this story was actually told to me by a therapist friend of mine. He said that he was working in a mental hospital a few years ago, and he and other staff heard a loud scream from down the hall. They ran to go check it out, and got to a patient's room to see blood all over his face and hand and realized he had torn his own eyeball out. They tried to defuse the situation and started looking around for the eyeball. They could not find it. He had eaten his own eyeball. Edit: I do not know the reason the patient gave for eating and or removing his eye, but I will say it takes a pretty severe level of psychosis for a person to be able to do this. Honestly, he was probably more concerned about the reason he needed to take his eye out than he was with the pain of it. I cannot imagine the emotional pain he must have been going through to be able to get to this point. I am a therapist for children who have been sexually abused. I could tell you some stuff that would disgust you even more, but I assure you no one wants that. Have a master's in clinical psychology and currently working towards my doctorate. I laughed reading this question because I feel like I have at least one of those moments per day at my clinic rotations, regardless of type of setting. One that stood out the most was when I was working a camp for children with various psychological disorders, most with some sort of behavioral concerns. The girl I was paired with had a history of aggressive and violent tendencies. We went the whole day without any problems. That was until we were doing some group physical activity to wind down and focus before leaving for the day. She did not like that this meant no longer playing with a certain toy, so she took off her shoe and threw at the little boy in front of her. He had autism and immediately started crying and screaming. While someone helped him, I turned to the girl to explain to her what she did was wrong. As I turned towards her, she punched me square inches the face, then grabbed a hold of my hair, managed to pull out a good chunk. I am about 5'1", and this girl was maybe 1 or 2 inches shorter than me, and had about 20 pounds on me. Despite being 9 years old, trying to get a safe physical restraint was difficult and comical to say the least. Finally got some help from other staff and we were able to calm her down after about 15 minutes. The kicker was when we told her mom what happened. She basically dismissed the entire thing and laughed about it. So frustrating because you just know this kind of thing is reinforced at home as there is no punishment. The girl then starts hitting her mom, who grabs and holds down her arms. The little girl laughs, looks at me and the other staff member, and says, "Ugh, a little help over here. Are you going to let her do this to me? She is hurting my arm." I went home and did this weird laugh cry for a few hours. Luckily you learn pretty quickly not to take things personally and move on, so things were back to normal the next day. I do occasionally look back at that day just baffled at how quickly that whole situation escalated. Most of the other moments that come to mind involve poop in some capacity. My client told me his family did not appreciate his interest in guns, to which he proceeded to tell me he is always carrying. He then places his gun on the table in front of me and asked if it made me nervous. It did, but we focused more about why he wanted to know if I was nervous, and it brought it back around to his family. From then on, I made sure to always have access to a door and never put the client between the door and myself again, just to be safe. I provided therapeutic counseling rehabilitation services for people with brain injuries. At a family conference I was trying to explain to the family that they needed to accept their son brother as he was in the moment and that he was not going to get much better than he was. They were being unkind to him, calling him stupid, etc., and generally being the worst version of family support imaginable. The family said they would never accept him as he was and demanded that I arrange a brain transplant for him so that he could go back to the way he was before the accident. I did not react, but my student lost it and started laughing uncontrollably. She had to leave the room. The family was outraged at her and demanded to know why she laughed at them. I literally had to explain that 1, brain transplants are not possible, and 2, if a brain transplant were possible that would mean putting a different person into their son's body. They did not grasp this and insisted I could do it if I was not too lazy to do my job. I felt so bad for that poor young man. I am late to this thread but, forensic therapist here. I work with paroled sex offenders. One time a guy I worked with urinated on my co-worker's car in broad daylight. She was in the car. He made eye contact with her while he was doing it. His PO picked him up from group 20 minutes later. He is currently having a little vacation at a state facility. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.